Hey guys, welcome back to this place, and if you are new, then welcome here for the very first time. I'm Carmen, and today we are going to be watching Season 1, Episode 4 of Westworld. I cannot believe we are almost halfway through Season 1, partially because there's so many questions that I still have about everything. The only way to answer those questions is to just keep watching, so let's get right into it.
I ran.
Oh, so they did catch her.
Everyone I cared about is gone. And it hurts.
I can make that feeling go away if you like.
Why would I want that? Pain? It's all I have left of them.
That's exactly
You think
what
the
he
grief
said
will
about
make you
his
smaller?
son.
I feel spaces opening up inside of me. Like a building with rooms I've never explored.
It's a great line.
That's very pretty.
I know it is so confusing, because this is
Is
what
there
he...
something wrong with these thoughts I'm having?
This is what he wants, but he's, like, upset by it.
Can you help me?
Oh, what is it that you want?
I think there may be something wrong with this world. Something hiding underneath. Either that or there's something wrong with me.
There's something I'd like you to try. It's a game. A secret. It's called The Maze.
What kind of game is it?
It's a very special kind of game, Dolores. The goal is to find the center of it. If you can do that, then maybe you can be free.
The same one that the man in black is looking for?
Something in your eyes.
Oh, is she remembering? I really don't like these people who come to this place.
Catch her and get her on the door.
That's the tip of my tongue. I'm happy to forget.
So she's remembering from
Sit
before,
there.
when she
That
woke up in the
was
place.
something to.
Is she gonna write it down just in case she forgets again? She drew what they looked like. Hide it. She's done this before.
We found some more food for the horses.
Where, may I ask, are you headed?
To retrieve something of great value.
You look a little short-handed. Seems like you got a couple positions open.
It's not stupid.
Where are you from?
Same as you. Don't you remember?
Remember.
A little girl remembers? The maze.
I'm not going back.
What's going on here? She's not lost, she's with me.
She's with a guest.
My mistake.
Good job, William.
Sometimes I feel like something's calling me, telling me there's a place for me, somewhere beyond all this.
Oh, I know that feeling, Dolores.
I just don't know how I feel about William.
I didn't want to intrude, but I just had to say that I'm such an admirer of yours. Your foundation literally saved my sister's life.
One more word and I'll cut your throat, understand?
They know who he is on the outside.
Except I believe he had one story left to tell. A story with real stakes. Real violence. You could say I'm here to honor his legacy.
He knew Arnold and Ford.
So do we have a wager?
One match, one pistol, and one idiot.
Ah, that guy. Hector Day or something like that.
Step lively, Hector.
Oh, he's killing him.
I was 7 when they rode into my town. They killed everyone, women, children, even the animals. They gutted my mother from her jaw to her sex. I had to paint her, warm blood over my skin to make sure that they would think I was dead. Every one of them I tracked down, I used their blood to paint my skin again.
Only one man left.
Who?
The head of the snake.
Yeah, it's not Red.
Most know him as Wyatt.
Wyatt. But isn't he part of the new story that just got added?
That thing's part of their so-called religion. Ain't none of them's gonna tell you nothing about that.
The tall one. I've seen him before, hanging in the window of the post office. I think he rides with Hector.
Is that the one they say lives out with the savages?
That's the one.
So she's interested in him because she thinks he's going to be able to tell her something.
It's not a business venture, not a theme park, but an entire world. We designed every inch of it. In here we were gods.
It's a bit creepy the way he's doing this, right?
This is the table I sat at with my parents. This is the chair I sat in.
He brought you there for a reason.
We know everything about our guests, don't we? As we know everything about our employees.
Her and Bernard.
I do hope you will be careful with Bernard.
Mm-hmm.
There have been many of you over the years, and we have almost always found a way to make it work. So I will ask you nicely, please, don't get in my way.
Definitely a threat.
The board will agree with me. They'll be sending a representative.
But they already have. I thought they would have told you. You can tell the board that my narrative will be completed on time, and it won't be a retrospective, as I'm sure you have all feared. I'm not the sentimental type.
What is your problem the second we get away from the real world? You turn into an evil prick. Evil? It's a fucking game!
She will be just fine with a trip down the dark side. And so will you.
I wish we could shoot him, just to get him to shut the fuck up.
Well, hello there.
May.
I want to talk.
Interesting way of starting a conversation.
Oh, it's an interesting kind of day. You're here for what's in the safe.
How would you know that?
I can always tell when a man wants something that's not on the menu. I'll give you the combination in exchange for some answers.
You assume I have any answer.
I want to know about this.
Sacred native lore. They make figures of them.
60. And what does this shape do?
You've seen this?
What is it?
The man who walks between worlds. You were sent from hell to oversee our world.
47. Sweetheart, if I took that manner of interest in you, you'd have no say in how long we can get whatsoever. I thought I was crazy, but I got shot here.
There's no wound?
No, but I was shot. And this was standing over me, and then it was as if it never happened. I want you to cut me right there.
I'm not in the habit of cutting into defenseless women.
Some big bad outlaw. The blessing.
To see the masters so pull your strings.
They don't know what they're talking about. Go on then. This will be the first goddamn time I've had to ask a man to put his hands on me twice.
Open up, Escatron, or we'll fire.
What does it mean? That I'm not crazy after all. And that none of this matters.
Y'all, this show is so good. Like, it's so good. Sometimes I have trouble putting to words because I just want to be like, it's so good, and then watch more. There is a lot that we need to talk about from this episode, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so a bit of like a smaller thing that bothers me when the people who are in control at the park do it is I really hate when they say, like Bernard did in this episode, limit emotional affect, or when the hosts are very upset by something that has happened, and they're describing it because they're asking them questions about it, and they're crying or freaking out or whatever. And they're basically like, okay, just tell us what happened without the hysterics. And it's really frustrating to me because it's so dismissive of these people and their ability to have emotions. And it's just very dismissive, which I understand that they don't see them as people and all of that stuff. But it feels accurate to a lot of things in society, though, when people have gone through stuff and they're telling their story about what they've been through. People don't want to see them cry or freak out or whatever about it, right? They want them to just say it without emotion. And it's just not true to who people are. People are emotional creatures, and I don't know, it's a small thing, like I said, but every time that it happens on the show, it bothers me. So something else that I found really interesting is that Bernard wants Dolores to try to find the maze. He told her about the maze. He didn't really tell her a lot about how to find it, but he told her that if she could find it, she could possibly be free, which is really interesting. So apparently the maze is a built-in sort of ending to the game, that it's like a secret ending, right? That takes a lot of effort to get to, and I guess maybe Bernard thinks that if Dolores is able to find the maze on her own and get to it, then Ford and everyone will recognize that she has the ability to think freely, to just think freely and make her own choices, her own decisions, and to plot out her own narrative storyline, I guess, in a way. I don't know how to describe it, but I think that Bernard's thinking is that if Dolores finds the maze, then he'll be able to convince Ford and company that the hosts have some sort of sentience and it should be recognized. Otherwise, how would she have been able to go off of her programming to such an elaborate and deliberate degree? If that makes any sense. I also find Bernard a bit frustrating because it's like he wants to help Dolores and then at the same time he doesn't. I think it's just because he's questioning what he's doing and his thoughts and his actions and if he's right or wrong about the hosts and all that stuff. But it's a bit frustrating to see the kind of wishy-washiness that he has sometimes. A small tidbit that we found out in this episode as well is that the guy with William, who I believe's name is Logan, as we found out in this episode, or we might have already known, but as I found out in this episode, his family has stock in Westworld, the park. So this for him is business, and William wasn't aware of that because he was kind of saying that their family wants to buy more stock into Westworld, and this is a business trip essentially to see if they should or not. Okay, so something that I thought was really, really interesting was when the man in black was with that group of people and the young kid guy went up to him and was saying like, oh, your foundation saved my sister's life and something along those lines, and he cut him off and was like, yo, I'm on vacation, like, leave me the fuck alone. But this is really interesting because now we know that whoever the man in black is well known in the outside world, the world outside of Westworld Park. And he had a foundation that apparently was maybe medical in some way or raised money to help with medical procedures or something like that. I'm just guessing based on the life-saving aspect of this. So I think that's really interesting. There's also him talking to Lawrence a little bit later also seemed to suggest that he might have personally known Arnold and Ford at some point, which might be why he has special privileges in the park. He might have been one of the first people to buy stock. He might have been, one of the first investors, something like that. But he knew Arnold and Ford. At least that's the implication that I got from what he was saying. I had honestly never even questioned the fact that Arnold died in the park and people can't die in the park. I thought maybe that rule was invented after Arnold died in the park. But he seemed wary of believing it, or I don't know. It kind of makes me think, like I mentioned a little bit last time, that Arnold could be Wyatt. And that's why there's the similarity between Wyatt and Teddy and Arnold and Ford's kinds of stories. Either Arnold is Wyatt, or Arnold somehow created some sort of subroutine in the programming, and that's how he's talking to the people in their heads and getting them to do stuff. Presuming that that is Arnold. I think it is, but anyway, I'm getting off track. But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting aspect of it. And I'm curious as to who this man in black is, and if we're going to find out his connection with Arnold and Ford and who he is in the outside world at some point. Because I really want to. I thought it was a really cool sort of twist that the snake that lays its eggs on Arroyo River or something like that was actually this lady with the snake tattoo. And she told the man in black that these people came into her village and they killed everybody, including her parents. And so she had to cover herself in her mom's blood in order to survive. And so she's going and systematically killing all of them. And the only person she hadn't killed was the head of the snake, as you could see, because everything else was red. So she had been tattooing their blood into her tattoo. And the head of the snake was Wyatt, which I think is really interesting because Wyatt is part of Ford's news stories that haven't fully been integrated yet. So was the maze even capable of being found before Ford added his new narratives in? Or was Wyatt always a part of that aspect, but just not a part of Teddy's background? It's unclear. But I think that there's definitely a possibility that Wyatt is Arnold, like I said before, and I'm interested to see if that pans out at all. I also really liked to see Dolores fighting back, like in the town with the little girl and the church, and the guy came to sort of wrangle her because she had gone off loop. And she was like, I'm not going back. And there was that stare, and I just love that she's actually fighting back. She's remembering and she's fighting back, and she's not gonna let herself be pushed around anymore. And I really love that William came and said that she was with him, because then she's with a guest, so it's okay for her to be off book, so maybe she won't get pulled because it's still her. If she's following a guest, she's not deviating from her loop, right? She's letting the guests take her where they want, which is okay. I also think it's cool how she's slowly remembering stuff, like looking at the moon and seeing the light, and I think she's just going to keep remembering more and more, just like Maeve seems to be remembering more and more, which I will talk about in a second. Yeah. I just really like Dolores, and I like to see her fighting back, and I just want good things for her, because she's probably my favorite character. Speaking of favorite characters, probably my other favorite character is Maeve, and so I think her storyline is really interesting, and how she's remembering, and she discovered that Hector might know about the little, they look like moon men, right? So that's what I'm going to call them, the little moon man. And I thought it was really clever how she, got him to tell her what she wanted. I also think it's extremely clever how they have integrated the moon men, or just the people in the weird suits, into the religion of the native tribes, so that if by any chance anybody does remember seeing these people, they're part of the religion. It's built into the narrative, so it doesn't seem so jarring or weird that they would see them, because it was designed that way. It's part of a believed and accepted religion and narrative that exists in the Westworld park for the hosts. To go back to Maeve and Hector, I still kind of ship it. I'm not gonna lie. I would be way okay with them as a couple. I think they're very interesting characters. But I love that Maeve found the drawings in the floorboard, and then when she saw the statues, she asked Hector about it, and then she got him to cut where she remembered being shot, and she knew there was no scar or anything. And then they found the bullet, and he's like, well, what the fuck does that mean? And she's like, it means that I'm not crazy. I think that's what she said, it means that she's not crazy, and that none of it matters. And so they started making out because I think she's slowly starting to realize, like Dolores, right, that none of this might be real, or that all of this might not be real. And yeah, I'm just really interested in her finding out, and I kind of really want a Dolores and Maeve team up because I really like them both, and that would be cool and interesting. And I want more people to start finding out. I want this to become a thing. Okay, and so I think the last thing I want to talk about is Ford and Cullen, I think is her name. And he took her to that part of the park where she had been with her parents as a kid. And he essentially, I mean, literally just flat out threatened her and was like, hey, so do things the way I want them to be done and let the board know that this is what's going to be done, or bye, you know? And I don't know. I feel like I might have been wrong about Ford just because based on this episode, he's very maniacal. He's very egotistical. He's like, I'm a god in this place. I can create and destroy as I please because I'm a god. And he very much was looking down on the people who made the park into a business or a theme park. He was very against saying that that's what it was, but that is what it is. He's like, no, we created an entire world. Like, we're gods. It's just very, I feel like he's showing his true colors, and I'm not sure that I like them. And he's destroying all of this stuff, and he's like, well, you know, I'm not the sentimental type. This isn't a reimagining. This is an entirely new story. And I'm really curious as to what he thinks. Also, it's interesting that he is so against the hosts being people if he really does see himself as a god. Because a god could create an entire person. It wouldn't just be an android. So I do still think that he thinks that they have the capability of sentience because he thinks he's a god, right? I wonder if his new storyline is going to have to do with making the hosts aware so that there is some kind of war between hosts and newcomers, hosts and the board, hosts and real people. I could see that. I could see Ford doing that because if he does indeed think he is a god, then why not have his creation be in our world and not just stuck in this park? I'm trying to figure out like what could happen next, and literally anything and everything could happen next. So bullet points. I'm not convinced that Arnold is in fact dead, especially now that they reminded me that newcomers aren't supposed to be able to die at the park. Yeah, not convinced Arnold's dead. Think he might be Wyatt, or again, that if he is dead, he somehow infused his consciousness into the programming in a way that would eventually lead the androids, the hosts, to become sentient. It's my theory, and I'm going with it. I have lots of theories, but that's the main one that makes the most sense to me. If you want me to tell you my other random crazy theories about all of this, like that Arnold doesn't even exist and is a figment of Ford's imagination, a la Johnny Depp and Secret Window, yeah, just let me know down below and I can expand on all the various different, very strange theories that I have. But I feel like that's the one that makes the most sense. So not that one, the one where Arnold is Wyatt. I'm really hoping, again, that Dolores finds the end of the maze and that something happens, that there's some sort of understanding between the people and the hosts. I hope that Maeve keeps figuring stuff out. I want to see more of her and Hector because I think that they're really interesting together and really fun. I'm actually not hating the Man in Black as much anymore because I feel like they might have made him seem worse than he was at the beginning. Like, I'm not forgetting the fact that he literally scalped people, murdered people. So, I don't know. He might not be as bad as I thought originally, but I'm still not, like, on his team, if that makes sense. On the fence about Bernard, on the fence about Ford. I think I like Elsie and the programmer guy. I'm interested to learn more about those people, perhaps. I'm glad we haven't seen Sizemore in a minute. Did he get fired? Are we done with him? I would be okay with that. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna go and think a lot more about this, and yeah, that's all for now though. So let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and until next time, bye guys.